Trigger warning! This episode of Below the Forest Floor may contain themes of abuse, sexual assault, murder, death, violence, or trauma, and may not be suitable for younger audiences. Please proceed with caution. Welcome to Below the Forest Floor's mid-season episode! My name is Nancy, and today we are going to be talking about the urban legend that came to life, Cropsey. Now, I usually have some kind of creepy or fantastical tale to give you guys as a basis of what our monster for the evening does to scare people. But tonight is a bit different. I unfortunately have no quotes or stories of who started the Cropsey urban legend. Not for lack of trying though. I scoured the internet in search of answers for days before realizing that the origin of Cropsey was basically non-existent. In previous episodes, we can recall a time back to the 1600s or a contest created in good fun to find out where our stories began, but not Cropsey. Everywhere I looked, it would just state things like no one knowing where the legend came from, just that it's been around for a really long time. But I'm sure you know by now that I don't give up so easily, and this is what I found out. The legend of Cropsey was popularized in the New York area as a warning story for children so they wouldn't stray too far from home. Most of these warnings were along the lines of telling kids that Cropsey would snatch them up and take them away if they stayed out too late or went to dangerous areas without supervision. From what I gathered based off of numerous resources, Cropsey was described as a mental patient that escaped the Long Island institution Willowbrook State School and kidnapped children. Others say Cropsey was just a man who lived in an abandoned mental hospital and that he would just take children back to his hideout. Some even say that he had a hook for a hand. This urban legend isn't as old as some, but it probably took place in the early 1970s, as that is when a young girl by the name of Alice went missing. In 1972, Alice's brother left her for a bit while they were playing in a lobby, and the next thing he knew, she was gone. This unfortunate incident caused many to spark stories of how it may have happened, and the disappearance of 3 other children and 1 adult fueled the story of a mysterious kidnapper people deemed Cropsey. It wasn't until 1988 when the world found out that Cropsey wasn't just a made-up boogeyman. He had a name, and that name was Andre Rand, a homeless man who was believed to be behind 5 total kidnappings from 1972 to 1987. Andre Rand had previously been charged with the attempted rape of a 9-year-old girl all the way back to 1969. During which time he'd been working as an attendant at Willowbrook. Unfortunately, Rand only spent 16 months in prison before being paroled in 1972, yes, the year that Alice went missing. Somehow Rand was later allowed to work directly with children again as he became a school bus driver, and in 1983 he abused that power to pick up 11 children with no one knowing from the local YMCA. He bought them food and took them to a New Jersey airport. As there was no visible physical harm to the children, he only served 10 months in jail for this kidnapping. It's so surprising to me that Rand was allowed to stay out of jail for so long and to be around children after everything he'd done and had been suspected of. The system truly failed these children, and because of what had been happening in those areas, people suspected that he may have been the kidnapper of the other people I mentioned earlier, or children and the 1 adult. The legend had become an even more frightening warning as children and adults realized a creature from their nightmares was real, and any one of them could have become a victim. Later in 2009, a documentary was created by filmmakers Barbara Bernacchio and Joshua Zeman about the events of the Cropsey legend. They were Staten Island natives that grew up hearing the Cropsey story and wanted to do their own research in linking Andre Rand to the missing children. Barbara and Joshua even went as far as to send Rand a letter in hopes of an interview. Unfortunately, he declined after having accepted it at first. Although we now know who the kidnapper really was, some people still believe that Cropsey was an entire entity all its own and that Andre Rand just so happened to fit the description at the time for all the terrible things that he had done. Whether Cropsey is really Rand or something all its own is still up for debate amongst people in the paranormal community. What I do know is that the Cropsey urban legend, not Rand, has a home here with us below the forest floor. Thank you so much everyone for joining us on our mid-season episode of Below the Forest Floor. Only 5 more episodes are left for this season, then we will have our Halloween special where family, friends, and myself will have our personal accounts of supernatural events be recounted. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you all next week when we'll be discussing Mothman.